I've actually brought Play-Doh to a meeting with a bunch of executives. Be innovative, which means disrupting yourself before you get disrupted. Oh, Kanye just did that. Well, I learned a lot about living in a megacity. We just offer a little bit of a different view from some of the traditional male-dominated design groups. You just got to lean into what you're really passionate about. I'm interested. I'm curious.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's no one, she's no one, we're no one.
Welcome to the Co-Pro Podcast.
Thank you. So exciting.
We got a good episode. We got our friend Jaclyn Suzuki that's with us today. And again, if you've ever thought about how brands kind of come to the conclusion of where they're going to go with their innovation and in cycles, look no further than the insights of Jaclyn here. You've had the pleasure of living in Tokyo.
Yeah.
You've had the pleasure of working on some big brands that we know, some odd projects that we probably go, wow, somebody did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as an entrepreneur, I commend you on starting a business with MADO.
Yeah.
So again, I get to see you and Kat work on some projects and kind of bring insights to the table. So, there's a couple of big brands that we'll probably get into and talk about a little bit later on. And there's some that we probably can't talk about yet. But stay tuned. It'll get good. And again, just opening up too, again, I'm always curious again. Tell me 2 truths and a lie.
Oh. You're going to guess?
I have to guess.
Okay.
See how smart I am.
Okay. All right. As a teenager, I was a punk rock groupie. That's one. As a child, I was in a math league, competitive math league. And as a mother, I encourage my kids to be entrepreneurs at like age 5.
Wow, all good ones. And now it's on me to guess. You can all vote in from home and help me out. No. I'll take the punk rock part is a lie.
Oh, punk rock part's a lie?
Is it?
No.
Ooh.
I was
a
super
mathlete?
into punk rock, and I was in a math club. Like, it was a very interesting mix of interests.
And
Yeah.
again, I think they'll get into that too. Again,
Yeah.
some of those right and left brain things that you're really good at.
Yeah.
Mathlete. What is a mathlete?
A mathlete is, you practice your math skills, and then you compete in like a competitive environment, and you've got to be spontaneous. You got to be quick. You got to answer like spontaneous problems.
So if I ask you a math question right now.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm out of practice. But I love the idea. Like, do you have a math question?
Well, it's like I could pull out my calculator,
Yeah.
right? And then just say, oh, hey,
No,
what is
it was like,
square root of
word
58?
problems and story problems, and yeah. It was only a couple of years, but once we traveled, and I thought, wow, this is cool.
What goes with the glasses?
Yeah.
Gives you extra superpowers.
Yeah, got the nerdy side. Yeah.
And then if there was, and going back, again, it's like, when did you discover that you had some math skills?
Well, so my dad was an engineer, and my mom was an artist and a teacher. And so I don't think I realized it till later, but our household was like this really unique creative mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was normal, kind of. But it's like there's a lot of creativity, but there's a lot of logic, too. So I was always drawn to both, but the logic was really fun. Like math, like there's an answer, and you just have to figure out how to get there. And I always thought that was so cool. So yeah, it was pretty I was pretty young. I didn't get that into chess, but me and my dad would play Mastermind. It's like a pretty simple logic game.
Yep.
And I just was really into that with him. I remember at a really early age. And I was encouraged I went to an arts high school. It was super cool. You had to have a major. And I was like, I'm down for anything, whatever. I just want to be like at this art school. It's so cool. So I chose creative writing at the time. And I loved being in that creative environment, but I was encouraged because of my math and science skills to go into engineering for college. So I kind of like just dipped back and forth in left brain, right brain. And I feel like I still do that in my work today, which is super fun to just find a place, you know, in design and in strategy where you can mix both of those sides.
And let's back up a little bit. Where did you go to school? Where'd you live?
I lived in Wisconsin. I went to Milwaukee High School of the Arts, downtown Milwaukee. It's close to Marquette University. And then I went to university in University of Wisconsin-Madison. And that had a really great engineering program, really research-based, like really innovative. And then I studied fine arts there too. I had an amazing time with Professor Steve Farron, who taught glass blowing there and like glass art and glass sculpture. I got really into that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity that you had to try both.
Yeah.
I remember, school, they kind of test you and say, oh, you should be an engineer. They kind of help you as a guidance counselor to kind of go down one path or the other. And then I had an engineering opportunity, went there and hated it. Probably the best experience I ever had was like, I am not going to be an engineer. This is horrible.
Yeah.
And ended up down a creative path, and here we are today. But you're still kind of playing both lines of that road.
Yeah.
So again, this young version of yourself decides like, okay, I'm going to do both. So that's a lot of extra work.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more.
Well, I mean, like you just said about your experience at university, like it's such an amazing time to explore, right? And you're like, I'm going to try this thing. No, not for me. I'm going to try something else. And I think I was excited about, getting into multiple things and trying it out. And, when you leave that learning environment, you're like, oh, okay, gotta kick it into the real world. So it's a really like precious time. I think that's really cool. I would encourage like young designers to really, really explore. It's great if you have an idea of what you want to do, but like stay open maybe, because that's a unique opportunity. And I just feel lucky I had an internship when I was at university with Design Concepts. It was this cool product innovation, engineering design company the consultancy that really bridged, like they had a huge engineering team, but they had this amazing prototype shop where they were just making stuff, and then they had the creative designers and the researchers, insight researchers, and they were all just like this buzzing kind of Willy Wonka factory or shop of creativity, and it was so cool and magical. So I think I was lucky to find something like that kind of at the end of my university experience and go, oh, there's jobs out here that combine these things, and I could do that. It's cool.
And so did that lead into like an internship?
Yeah, that was an internship. Internship, and then I was pretty set on coming out to Portland. I couldn't tell you exactly how that happened, but like it got planted in my brain. Portland is where I should be. And so
And how old are you then?
I'm 22. I'm graduating college, and I'm so I had some really great mentors there at that design agency, and I asked for their advice on coming out west, and they pointed me to Zeba Design at Nike and some ideas they had, and took tried a couple things and landed up at Zeba. So
well, you also mentioned mentorship. So I think it's really a big insight that you bring to the table is like the influence that mentor will have on your career trajectory. Can you talk about some of those mentors that you had and the influence they had on your career? Yeah,
thank you. You totally. I wanted to talk about the women that I met at this place at Design Concepts. Amy and Sherry and Julie. There were a few women leaders there that were just so smart and so energetic and passionate about the field. And this was at a time where there weren't a ton of women in industrial design, and these women were in design. They were leading the groups, managing, and it was just really great to see them there, first of all, like the representation, and then just their attention with me and working together on like coming up to speed and really inspiring me. I think working in consultancies can be stressful, and it's a demanding job, and some shops run a little more like frantic and there's a more of a layer of stress. And this place was just so warm, generous, and like had this great energy. And I took the note of that from like kind of a management style and wanted to carry that through. So that sticks out for me. And then another one was a person I didn't actually spend a ton of time with, but it was at this critical moment for me where I was shifting from being like a senior researcher at Ziba to a creative director. And I got the opportunity to work with a coach, and his name's Kevin Carroll, and actually he's in Portland. You know him.
Red Ball.
Yeah, Red Ball. And that was just like, he just kind of blew my mind. He's super cool. And he, talked to me about the energy that we have, and as leaders, like how we show up and preserve our energy so that we can bring it to work each day and share it and inspire the people that we work with. And I don't know if I'm living up to that standard yet, but like it really flipped a switch for me, and I just think that was so helpful for me in that moment too, to kind of step up into a leadership position and get some of his wisdom. So
is that something that Ziba provided for you in leadership?
Yeah, it was pretty cool that they had this program, and a few people got to work with him. And so kudos to the leadership there at the time that was saying this is a good idea, we want to invest in our leadership.
And in there's also you had some wins early on, and there's probably some disappointments and challenges. Yeah. And I think there's always life lessons from those challenges. Can you share one of those?
What kind of challenges are we looking for? I think there was one project when I was a newly creative director. We work on innovation for our clients.
What does that mean?
What does innovation mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? We work on innovation for our clients.
Helping design teams and business teams be innovative, which means kind of looking ahead, thinking about disrupting yourself before you get disrupted, right? So that's really important. And that manifests in new products, new product categories, new growth opportunities for the business that are kind of beyond the iterative evolution and like kind of step into these new spaces. That's really exciting. That's kind of what I'm really passionate about, and that's why I think it's really important to connect insights into people and the research that we do to these innovation opportunities so that it's actionable and it's going to create growth for our clients. But also as a leader, we try to be innovative in what we do and how we're approaching our work and our process. And so one of the reasons I think I was asked to be a leader at Ziba was because I kind of came to each project with this innovative process, like, we're going to try something new. Like, we're going to approach this differently. And I want to try to research this. I want to try to bring in a business designer too, and that had never happened. And I want us all to look at trends. And so sometimes that meant asking people to do things they hadn't done before, asking people to do things that weren't in their job title or their professional training. And so there was one project where I feel like I maybe stressed if there was some friction with the team because a little pushback, right? I'm like, oh, I'm not comfortable. And I had some lessons about like how I could manage that communication of that, like, and really like amp up the team and get everybody on board of like, we're going to do this a new way and it's going to be fun and exciting and we can fail. It's okay. So that was an early lesson that I'm like, I try to remember.
Well, there's a theme that comes up quite often is imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure early in your career when you're making that transition to leadership, there was probably moments of that. Yeah.
I mean, I was just reading about this, how like, most of us still feel it all the time, right? To a degree.
I do right now.
Yeah. what are you doing this podcast today? God, you seem natural at it though. It's all inside.
Yeah, I'm
It's all
faking it till I
internal.
make it, but go.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think after I turned 40, I was like, come on, like nothing to be shy about. Like, we're here on this earth, like we've got some expertise, like we're putting it out there. Like, I don't know, there's like nothing to be. I think earlier I was like, I gotta build up the credibility, I gotta, I'm not sure, but at some point I think you just gotta lean into what you're really passionate about and just believe that you're gonna
Well,
it's
you're
gonna
saying
work out,
you got
right?
it. You saying you got it at 40, but it sounds like it probably was there early on. You sounded very confident in all the things that you've been able to accomplish up to this point, and then carrying that through with a group at a Fortune 500 company like Adidas or Kaiser, and
Yeah.
you're trying to guide 20 people through this exercise who may or may not want to be in this room or
Yeah.
uncomfortable with the
Right.
fact that you're asking them to think about things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And as the leader for that group, it may have given them the confidence to kind of keep going and moving forward.
Yeah. There's probably been some thread of confidence throughout. I think, like we were talking about as kids, you can kind of see the adult version, or you can look back and see that thread. And I think there's been some confidence, but it's always a mix, right? Of like a little bit of doubt and maybe a little bit of confidence. But yeah, that sometimes when I'm in those situations, leading big groups at these big companies, I think about my mom as a elementary art school art teacher, and I witnessed her like lead so many creative activities, like with the neighbor kids. She'd like invite everybody over, and and that it just comes out sometimes. Like I have that confidence to stand at the front of the room and be like, okay, we're gonna do something weird. Like, we're gonna go through this exercise and we're gonna draw on the board and we're all gonna pass the ball around as we come up with these new ideas. And so I think it's good to draw inspiration from,
So the lesson I'm taking away is like, just look at the executive staff as kindergartners.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll be fine. Just keep
kindergartners
them
picking their
through.
nose, and yeah. Well, I've actually brought Play-Doh to like a meeting with a bunch of executives. Yeah, and it really helps. And we like prototype some of their like beloved products just in Play-Doh, just to make it low risk and
We'll thank your mom for that tip.
Yeah, right.
That's a good one. The walk me through one of those sessions. I'm sure there was some. I'm sure there's plenty of stories.
Yeah. A story of like working with a big client group.
Yeah.
One that I was revisiting with my friend Mary Ann recently was I was running a big project for Oster, the old American appliance brand.
Yes.
Traditional. And we were doing an innovation program to kind of see like what's the next disruption for them. And we ran this really fun exercise with some pretty high up leaders where we were like collaging. And but it was for a strategic purpose. So we wanted to solidify a perspective on like the trends that we should be paying attention to and kind of getting ahead of. So we had this massive board in their conference room where we mapped out like this era analysis of food. And it was like, in order to figure out what your food appliances should be in the future, we need to have a perspective on like where food is headed, right? Like, what are people going to do with food? How is the food going to be different? So we did this era analysis, and it was so fun. People got so into it, especially we have multiple ages, in the session at the companies, and to reflect back on, the 70s, and the food was all, like, there was this space age food, and then we get to the 90s, and Whole Foods, like, made, like, raw, whole, pure foods, like, really front and center, and then it was this question of, like, what's the 2020s food? And we formed a perspective there, and we were able to kind of tie it together and see those threads. That became a strategic document. But that session was just like fun and reflective and like engaging for folks, junior designers on their team to the CMO. Like it was really great to bring everyone together, and people get so excited about that because it's this important future looking activity for the company, and everybody wants to. It creates this pride that like we're here with a company that is doing great things and is going to move us forward and is going to do something interesting too, right?
So imagine hoping a product came out of it, and what went through my head was that you have a 3D printer that's kicking out a Taco Bell
I love
treat
it.
by just downloading it, sadly. That's the food for the future.
That might sort of exist. Yeah, there's some
no.
good 3D printers. Yeah, there was some great concepts that came out of that. One of the big insights, and we traveled globally to talk to people and learn from people about food. And one of the big insights was that there's so many more working women and this generation, and yet their reference for what they should be providing at home was based on their mothers cooking, who for a larger part, there were more stay-at-home moms cooking last generation. So there was this tension that we discovered and just like learned more about, of wanting to make homemade things but not having nearly as much time. So the hero concept that came out of that project was an appliance that helped you prep food for the whole week. So blend, vacuum seal, package it up, and it's still like your homemade kind of recipe, but you've got this support system to help you be more efficient and kind of like work with the rhythms of your daily life. So, so that became a really different product concept than what they were currently working on at the time, which was much more of a technical upgrade. And this, we're talking about like a user behavior change, right? And it's like that connects to a trend. So yeah, that was a super fun project, and I used that project as a model in a lot of my projects. Is like, what are we gonna learn that's gonna kind of break us into a new space for product?
Well, you mentioned travel, and I'm
Yeah.
sure with a lot of these jobs, they have offices all over the world.
Yeah.
But it also reminds me that you did spend some time in Tokyo.
Yeah.
What did you learn there?
Oh my gosh, Tokyo's amazing. Well, I learned a lot about living in a megacity.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. So the density was just phenomenal, like so interesting to be a part of, the ecosystem and just the impact of culture. The culture is so different than the States, right? And the respect and the kind of organization that's there, and like everything to the small details, and how customer service. I mean, I met clients who said, "Oh, we go on to train our customer service leaders. We go to Japan because it's just like it's impeccable." The 7-Eleven attendants have like amazing customer service.
Good.
Yeah. So that was great. But yeah, I did trend reporting. I did design strategy and research there. And I just got to witness a lot of awesome trends just from a design and aesthetic point of view. Super fun. A lot of color, a lot of anime influence. And yeah, kind of a yin and yang with like traditional craft that's so beautiful there. And then the more new age futuristic young artists kind of coming out of Japan. So
So it seems like you got to use your right and left brain. And did you get the opportunity to do an art project there?
Yes.
What are we looking at
Yeah,
here? Tell me. So for the phones at home, we're looking at a picture
we are
of some
looking at,
distressed rust wall.
Yes. Urban textures from Japan. I dedicated about a year to like photographing textures, urban textures from around the city. I did a lot of walking. I did a lot of train travel, and I just thought these kind of macro shots of surfaces in Tokyo were so beautiful and interesting. They use different colors in a lot of their like urban infrastructure. There were like more pastels and mint colors. So I thought that was really interesting. Architecture was really cool, from the really traditional castles to a lot of these like 90s futuristic buildings and sky bridges and things like that. So that was fun. I got to show that art show at Ristretto Coffee, I think, when that was there on Williams, and it was a great way to like come back and feel like I could share something visual.
We talk about coming back. What should Portland or any city in the United States adopt?
Yeah.
Maybe 3 things that we should be doing that Tokyo's doing.
Ooh, that's a good
Think
one.
about the size of that city, and they're doing. I can't believe it stays online. Like, how many toilets are flushing any second in that city?
Yeah.
It's so massive.
It's huge. The first one that sticks out for sure is the train system and how few people need to have cars there because it works so well to train commute. And then what we loved was like the groceries and the restaurants were right in the train station, so you get off from the train and you can grab your food and go home, and it's convenient. It's like meant for daily living. So that's one. The other one is probably just like the behavior in public spaces.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like just some more respect for our fellow train riders or folks on the street. Yeah, and then let me think of a third one. You've been.
It is. I agree. Again,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Just one little thing I saw with folks that do smoke cigarettes. The guy had a old school metal film canister, and he'd stuff his butts in there and then seal it back up so he's not flicking it on the street.
That's just another.
And I remember getting back from '98. I was over there in '98 for the Olympics. I was over
Fun.
running around Japan for 2 months, and then you get back to the airport and you go, wow, we're really big.
Yeah.
Like everything's big. The vehicles are big, the roads are big, people are big.
Yeah.
And it just was like glaringly obviously. And I'm 6 foot, and again, I was tall. Like I'm standing on the trains, but I was tall compared to many. So it was just interesting that was a takeaway.
Totally.
And even the guys in the city that got out of hand on a Thursday night when they got their paycheck and ended up face down in the street still had their suit and tie on.
Yeah.
Like they could just
Cab
fluff 'em up
drivers
and
wear a
send
suit
'em
and
back.
tie. Like
It just is part of it. I take home every day is like just try to be a lot more courteous when I'm out in public, and it's everybody's street. We all need to be here together, and just respect the space and not throw your garbage on the ground.
Totally. The garbage. Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, and there's not a lot of public garbages there actually. You kind of just get used to like taking care of your own garbage and bringing it back.
There's one thing that we do on the Co-Pro podcast is it's all about collective progression.
Yeah.
And again, I'm really interested in working with the groups that you do and then managing your business. And again, can you share some insight on how we're smarter together?
Definitely. I mean, it takes so many different talents to pull together something big and audacious. And then just the diversity of mindsets and approaches just gets us like miles and miles beyond what we can do alone. I think a good example is we've been partnering a lot together lately, and it's been such a nice like complementary skills, but also just kind of broadening our view and on what's potential for the project, bringing insights, video, creative, art direction all together. That's been great.
Well, I'm glad you get to work on that. I get to sign the checks. But and again, what I do find interesting, and I love working with your group, is like again, for us, we execute really, really well in translating what it means for the brand to move it forward. But without all that sharp insight at the front end, the stakeholders, those 20 people in the room, will waver forever
Yeah.
and not really make a decision because they're basing it upon their own opinions as marketers or as consumers.
Yeah.
And it's always better when we come up with a muse that says, hey, it's about Johnny, this is what Johnny thinks, and then we can make things for that consumer as opposed to just, throwing things up on the wall.
Yeah.
So again, selfishly, as running a business, it's like I have a lot less changes that are on the fly that are just expected from the client, and you kind of can get to the end
Because you have
quicker.
that like focus that you
What's-
align on
yeah, what's at
first.
the front end.
Yeah.
But again, it kind of leads up to, again, what is it you guys do? Tell
Yeah.
me more about your new company. Again, why get into business with Kat?
Yeah.
Again, I'm interested in women leadership,
Yeah.
and then, your process.
Yeah. So we're MADO. We're a customer research insights studio that is a little different than a typical research agency because we span strategy, design, insight, and foresight, which is more the future side of that insight equation. We help brands understand their people and understand the changing contexts of their people, and that's really important. And that's kind of what we're talking about with innovation and like kind of the ability to disrupt ourselves before we get disrupted. Is we need to know where our people's lives are headed, and as lifestyles change, values change, perception, relationships to different concepts, products, brands change. And so, really helping folks understand that change, align on the change, right? And like decide that that's what we're gonna try to solve, and then connecting that to creative outcomes. And I think that tip of the spear metaphor is interesting because what can happen is there could be a break in that funnel. And so it's been great to work with you guys on like having our process blend, like kind of bleed into your process, and having you guys bleed up into our process. And luckily, I think it's really like not every creative group can do that and connect to the strategy, and not every strategy group can. So that's been really great. But we inform product design, service design, brand and marketing, whoever needs to know their people. That's really what we do. And the impetus for starting MADO, Kat and I had both worked at big design agencies, and we wanted to do our own thing. We kind of wanted to shape this specific offering around insights research that was future forward. We knew we wanted to stay small so that we could work directly with clients. And in our experience, we saw that was like part of the success was when you have the senior level folks working directly with the clients and doing the work, not just selling it and handing it off. So we really wanted to do that. And that's been working, although we need to grow right now. And so I have to pick your brain on how to kind of manage like the doing the work and the managing the work and all of those things at some reasonable scale. You've got it all figured out, right?
Yeah, right. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
But the other part, again, is like you've been pretty active in sharing leadership with other groups, and in the women category especially.
Yeah.
So you can share some of those experiences.
Yeah. I mean, we're women owned. We got certified as a women owned business, which I think is great. And I think first of all, we just offer a little bit of a different view from some of the traditional male dominated design groups. But the other thing that we've really been fortunate to do is help lift up our women clients. And so we've had these really ambitious, bold, visionary female clients who we've been able to help kind of lift up and make their work shine, provide some innovative approaches to their work, and they've been promoted, and we want to see more of that, because the makeup of some of the corporate teams is not where they want it to be yet, with the gender split. So if we can help in some way to influence that path too for our clients, we get really excited about that.
And you mentioned process too, and I got a hold of one of your Core 77 articles.
Oh yeah.
And in there was some descriptions of your process.
Yeah.
So again, if the folks at home, I'm kind of sharing some of the visuals. So we talk about the scout.
Yeah.
We talk about, I'm sure you have all this memorized, right?
Yeah.
Stagehand.
Yeah. Gardener.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's the gardener.
It's been a little while.
It's been a little while. And so there's some visuals here, and we can kind of post those up on the screen. But
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the scout.
Yeah. So this was, this is this philosophy that designers and design teams to really thrive and provide leadership for an organization, that it would be really great to embrace these three roles, because times are, we're in a really unique time right now where there's kind of this era of unprecedented change, and that's like on every facet of modern life, like climate change, speed of technology, shifting relationships with AI, whatever that is. Things are happening fast, and so we can't approach design in a way that we may have even 10 years ago, where we're toiling away on some perfect concept and presenting that to move forward and kind of have this linear process. So the three roles that we suggest were, one, the scout, and that is that designers who embrace this look ahead mentality and are actively scouting and have that as a part of their process. It's not just, for this one project I'm gonna do a little research. I'm actively always looking for signals of change. That's what we call them in Foresight. And that's an article you might read that makes you think, wow, if this is happening, then maybe in a few years, that's going to lead to some, an opening up or something, a big shift. So anything that makes you think that you're collecting those signals of change. And so that's being the scout, because that will help inspire you to kind of design for those future realities. The second one is the gardener, and that is about being a little less precious with your one perfect design solution and gardening tending to multiple possible solutions, which is normal for the beginning part of the process usually, right, in design, but even carrying them through further. So in product design, there's the double diamond a lot that we go through to explore and then converge. What I'm proposing a multiple diamond path where we're pursuing concepts in parallel and prototyping them, and even bringing them kind of further down the line to be ready, because things are changing so fast. Then you're helping the business by being prepared with Kanye just did that, or whatever just happened. We gotta pivot, right?
Imagine being on the backside of that.
Yeah. So, and then the third one is stagehand, which is just about, I don't know if it's I want to call it showmanship, or helping leadership see the full picture of the design vision. So it's not good enough anymore to just be here's my design in isolation. Here's the product and a rendered white background. It's let's show it in context and why it's going to be so great based on all the things that are happening around it as well. So just getting versed up in experiential storytelling. Even sometimes we use drama in meetings to act out situations. Just get the story across to leadership to kind of convince or help folks see your vision. So that's beyond just like skilling up in the latest rendering tools. It's thinking maybe even a little broader than that, around that human experience around your designs. And I think for what you guys do too, like with campaigns, it's like, are we imagining where they're going to be when they see this campaign, and what they're going to do after that, and kind of like the journey around it. I think there's really interesting potential there for becoming more of a stagehand.
Well, what's great with your career, you've had enough time to see, like, hey, I was in this meeting, we were talking about the future and using this process, and we came to some conclusions, and then it's 10 years later, and you can look back and go, did it work?
Yeah, right.
And we talked a little bit about now, again, a Portland outdoor company that was all the rage, and you got to work on that.
Yeah, I got to work with the brand now. That was super cool. They, when they started, and I won't know the exact year, but I want to say early 2000s, they were this bold, really only performance apparel brand who was claiming sustainability as their center point, which was really bold of them, and it was a great vision. And they came to us 10 years later to say, hey, does sustainability still resonate with people? What does sustainability mean? And so I got to lead this project where we investigated that, because it's, part of what insights can do is help you understand how people perceive your brand. But this other question is like, how do people perceive the concepts that your brand stands for? And so what does sustainability mean in people's lives? And so at that time, it was like sustainability had taken on this totally different meaning from the 10 years prior, where it was like, I buy sustainable, sustainable cotton products, and it was an ingredient story. And 10 years later, it became a lifestyle story. And it was like, I think of sustainable living, that's something I strive for. I go to the farmer's market, I ride my bike to work when I can. It's this holistic, like, all-encompassing thing. And so for somebody like now, when they make apparel, it's like, can I wash it a million times and still wear it? Like, how long will it last? Even sustainability meant, like, does it look good at work and on the mountain? Like, is it versatile enough that I don't have to buy more? And yeah, there were all these kind of new meanings for sustainability, and like how that intersected the brand. And that was a great program that kind of cracked open a new era of that brand strategy for them, and new brand principles that were much more like time relevant for their customers.
Whatever happened to those guys?
Oh man, I couldn't give you an accurate picture today, but after that program, they were bought by a Korean company, and they're still have a shop in Northwest, but I don't
checked in.
I don't know. I haven't checked in. Yeah,
I was cheering for him for sure.
If you're listening now, Pete folks, come visit, say hi.
Help them out. Yeah, that'd be all good. That'd be all good.
Yeah.
And then on the topic of brands, one of my favorite questions is brands. Like, tell me about your favorite brands and why. And I'm going to put some parameters around it. You can't say Apple.
Oh.
You can't say Patagonia. No. And you can't say Nike.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Good luck. Yeah.
Timer's going. Tick, 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 tick.
I know. Well, I don't know if these are my favorite, but I thought these are interesting brands that I think are doing good things. So one that I've talked about with your people a lot is Liquid Death. And that's just because I think a great brand is a personality, and they've got a lot of personality. And I think creatively what they're doing with their creative shows that if you have like this center point for your brand personality, there's like infinite creative possibilities, right, to execute and bring that to life. So that's super fun. Also, the power of a brand to make water cool. That's pretty incredible. The other one is a brand I've gotten the pleasure of working with this year, Arc'teryx. I just think they've stayed really true to their brand, and they have been, I think they've they must have been tempted to grow outside of their starting point, but they've resisted the temptation to grow in a scattershot way. This really intentional way. It all feels very dialed into their center point, which is about being this trusted brand known for design, craftsmanship, performance, and like all weather, all conditions, extreme, trusted for the most extreme conditions. And they recently expanded into footwear. They launched robotic exoskeleton pants because they're, like pioneering the highest performance for the mountain. Opened a huge flagship store in New York. And then the other side of it too is internally, we got to work with their team, and after our big work session, we all went out paddle boarding. They took us out to the lake, and the team is made up of athletes, and they are out there all the time. And so it's like when you can feel the brand living through the folks, it's just, I think it says something's working. So that's a good one, I think. And then the other one is a new UK teen beauty brand.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yeah. They're called Indu, INDU. I was just reading about them, and it's really interesting because they started based off of an insight that teens kind of have a gap in beauty brands that speak to them. There's like a lot of child beauty products that's more play, and then there's a lot of adult brands that are speaking to teens but not actually designed for teens. And so there's adult cosmetics that, for instance, retinol is a really popular thing right now, and it's anti-aging, but that's not really relevant for 13-year-old, or like a 20-step skincare process. Like that's not maybe what they're looking for or need. So yeah, this brand started based off an insight that there's this gap for teens, and that a lot of teens today are into like having fun, but also like they're responsible, and they're looking for like good, wholesome things. So this brand, I just think it's nice. They do SPF, and it's about taking care of your skin, and it's about ingredients that are healthy for teen skin while you're still like growing, right? And then visually it has this like light, airy, optimistic aesthetic. And so I just think I'm watching for brands like that, when they pop up and they're speaking to the younger generations. I think that's when they have success, it's like you got to take note of that trend that's helping to fuel that interest.
That's a good one. And then the future, right? So we're all moving. Everything's in the future. That's where you live. And again, AI,
yeah,
it's out there.
Yeah.
You got an opinion, insight? Are you using it?
I feel a little bit like a Luddite. I'm like a little resistant. But we're researching it a lot, because in research and insights, there's a lot going on with AI, and we sort through like so much data. We go on these worldwide trips. We're interviewing people for hours and hours. We have all these transcripts. So one, AI's been helpful at translating, summarizing, pulling things out, really time saving for the team. But something I haven't tried yet, looking into it, is they now have like AI moderators that can lead interviews with customers and flex to like go off script to respond to things. Ooh. So I'm a little nervous about that, because we're so like people centered. We want folks to be comfortable. But one of the interesting things I heard about this was that customers are actually really open, and maybe more so almost because they know it's a AI. And
they're not offending
there's
anybody.
No judgment really in the room. Or no risk of that. So I'm interested. I'm curious. And then I know you and we met with a vendor who was talking about brand AI.
Yep.
Where'd you land on that?
It's I don't know if we're big enough for them.
Yeah.
Because they've got a pretty robust platform. But I do think that having having a brand live in the cloud so that it can be updated and you can actually use it to, put, like, again, simple things like, hey, these photos are all North American approved for usage rights. You
Yeah.
can put that up there. I think the thing that I like is it also can kind of scan. We've got young people kind of coming up with new concepts for campaigns, and they may be referencing a quote that was done by the mustache guy and
Yeah.
putting it into an ad because it was inspirational for a group of people in that era. But,
Yeah.
After time it gets diluted and you forget that it was that. But AI doesn't forget. It scouts the internet and says, hey,
Yeah.
just so you know, this was like, a quote by the mustache guy, and maybe you shouldn't use it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great tool, as
Right.
well as keeping consistency for brands globally.
Yeah.
And again, with every big company, people that are on brands are coming in and out, and so there's some voice and tone that can kind
Yeah.
of be consistent. So again,
Yeah.
I think it's just an additional tool to us,
Yeah.
not a
Totally. I mean,
replacing us, because we still have to curate things.
yeah. I mean, when you think of strategy and the guidance that you provide for the clients, like, it's just,
Yeah, the creativity and curation is still going to
yeah.
be human-based, and so I'm not too threatened by it. But
Yeah.
we'll embrace it for sure. So what are you working on now? I know you have a Mattel project
Yeah.
that's coming up. Maybe you could tell us a little about that, and then
Yeah.
where can we find you?
Yeah. Been working on a big Mattel project, insights project, researching how people feel about play today and how it's kind of been changing. Fun thing about that was that it was not just with kids, kids of all ages.
Man-childs? What are you
Yeah.
talking-
Yeah. So, and just how powerful play can be in people's lives at all ages. So that was a really special project, really has a special place in my heart. Hopefully I'll be able to share more about that soon, coming up. And
And you'll be speaking with...
I'll be speaking with my client Tasha Kirkwood, VP of Insights at Mattel at South by Southwest.
that's
in
too bad.
March.
It sounds horrible.
Yeah, this will be fun.
Good for you.
And you can find me on LinkedIn. That's a great place. Reach out on our website. We've got an email connect. But I love meeting folks in the creative community and collaborators, clients, whatever. It's like more conversations, the better. So
Appreciate your time
Yeah.
today.
thanks,
Thank you.
Trevor.